Evening, everybody. I am very excited to be talking to Cressida Bonas, who is also a friend of mine. And I just spelled her name wrong, so I can't invite her. That hasn't helped me. There we go. There. And there she is. Hello.
Hi, Julia.
Hello. I haven't seen you for so long. So
I know
lovely
that
to
was
see you.
far less. I knew that was far less complicated than I thought it was going to be. I've
No,
never done one of these, so I had no idea what to do. But it all looks great. Thank you for having.
well, it's so lovely, and thank you everyone who's joining us. So, for people who are joining us who don't know Cressida, you are an actor and a podcaster of Fear Itself. You're writing, and we are going to talk about how COVID has shaped your life in kind of personal life and professionally. And do please everybody ask questions, and I'll interrupt Chris to ask them too. So I haven't seen you since way before COVID. It's the first time we've seen each other, but I've heard about you obviously from Harry's dad and Millie and everyone. Do you want to kind of start by telling us, I mean, as an actor, your life just stopped, I presume. What happened to you?
Yeah, well, I did a TV series called White House Farm, which was on ITV, and then it got transferred to Netflix, and it was just before COVID. So
Was that about the murderer, that son who murdered his parents?
yeah, exactly. It was about Jeremy Bamber, so quite dark, quite depressing.
Yeah.
Not light.
No, quite intense.
Yeah, so that came out, and you know, in acting, if something's received well and you're received well, which it was really great because it was received well, it's a bit like a dominoes effect. So you suddenly get more meetings, and casting directors are more interested in you because it's done well. So that was sort of happening. I was getting more interest, and then and then lockdown happened, and the whole industry just shut down. Which
Oh my
was a shame.
God, that's cruel. So it's like as you were kind of, because you've worked so hard on the stage and doing things, and this felt like your thing that was going to take you to, I guess, to the next level where
Yeah,
you're going to.
yeah, it was just a role I was really proud of because it was so far away from myself. Um, and I just loved doing it as well. The whole cast and crew, it was just a fantastic experience. So that was a shame. So then lockdown happened, and I thought, you know, I'm just not one of those people that can sit by the phone and wait. And a lot of actors, they're so focused on acting that, and I have so much respect for people that can do that. They're just very much, you know, that's all they want to do. But I just can't do that just for my, you know, mental health. I have to find other things that I love doing because acting was just a no-go. So I started writing, which I loved. And then I had a podcast, which grew. So I just feel really blessed and lucky that I've got other things other than acting, because I think that's really important to have those different things that you're interested in and different passions, I suppose.
Because the thing I understand in a way is that you're a creator. So some actors are actors, and that is their kind of calling, if you like. But you are naturally creative, so you could shift that energy, that creative focus into other areas. If when the acting got stalled by COVID, you couldn't just let it, because it would do your head in. It would
Yeah,
literally drive you mad. Like,
yeah,
or there's too much energy in you.
yeah. And some people can do that. I have friends who are actors and they can do that. And I just know my personality and my character, I can't do that. But at the same time as saying that, it was a strange time because almost there was a bit of a relief, because the industry is so competitive. You're always looking over your shoulder. You know, that person got that part. Why didn't I get that part? And it's just,
Brutal.
it's always competitive, as so many industries are. And that was just taken away because no one was working.
Yeah. You
So
couldn't get hit in the morning by seeing somebody else got the part that you tried for, or, you know, it just took that whole comparing, competing, pushing. Pushing is so hard, and pushing yourself. It's one thing working in a business where you're pushing a product, but pushing your talent and yourself is a tough call.
Yeah, it is. It's I'm not very good at, actually. I
I was
love
about to say, it's not your natural bent, is it? You love the acting, but the pushing of yourself is not.
no. I wish I could actually be a bit better at that, because I think it would help me a bit. But I just, that doesn't come very naturally to me. But when I'm in the job, I love it. You know, I look back at my life, and some of the best experiences of my life has been mainly in theatre, really, just working with a team. And collaborating with creative people. I just love it. But yeah, so it was a really strange time. But again, as I say, it was also, you know, these two
Liberating.
different, oh God, am I ever going to work again? And also, oh, it's just kind of a bit of a relief because we're all in the same boat, and then working.
Yeah. And are you working now? What's going? I mean, I want to talk about the podcast, but what's happening with acting?
So acting, it has opened up again. It's beginning to open up. I mean, theatre is my real love, and I honestly wonder if I don't know if I'll ever
Do that
work
again.
again. I mean, I hope I do, but you know, one day I'd love to have children, and with children working in theatre, I don't know how people do that really, because I'd like to be there for bath time and bedtime, and so I'm just looking ahead really, and looking to the future, and I'd love to work in theatre again. So we'll
Didn't you
see.
just get so scared? Weren't you terrified on the stage?
More before going on the stage, yes. I thought, God, I once did a one-woman play, and I thought, what am I doing?
I remember seeing that you were doing that. I thought, oh my God,
I
that
know,
is so frightening. So
but
brave.
on stage, I love it, and even though I can be quite a shy person, so it's a massive
Exactly.
competition. When I'm on stage, I love an audience, and the bigger the audience, the better, really.
It's such a contradiction, isn't it? Because you are shy and quite kind of, you know, hide yourself, and then you become somebody completely different on the stage. Whereas I remember acting, and I was given one of the lead roles when I was like 14 in She Stoops to Conquer, and I was really good in rehearsals. And I think he was called Mr. Hardcastle, but I might have made that up. Anyway, on the opening night, I just couldn't do it. I just completely froze. I couldn't act. So I'm the reverse to you.
I have had that before, when I've completely frozen on stage, and it's a terrifying feeling. Saying, "Oh my God, someone please save me."
Save me. So
Yeah.
Natasha Mandelson is saying, do you actually see the audience, if you see what I mean? So when you're acting, when you're on the stage, does the audience disappear?
Yes, for me they do. Yes, I mean sometimes they're very close though, and then so you do see the front row, but I try and kind of not. Well, it's kind of a funny thing because you want to invite the audience in, don't you? So you don't want to
Yeah.
ignore, but you're not looking at them. So I kind of don't really see them. But once you go out on stage the first time and you see an audience, it is like, and then you get into so much rehearsing, and you know the part well. Hopefully, hopefully you know the part really well, that you just yeah, you're just so in it really. So I love it. But who knows? I mean, I don't know, and that's why I'm doing a lot of writing, which I'm loving. I'm really loving.
Really? So what are you writing? Are you writing a script or book?
Oh no, I in lockdown I started writing a children's book, and I've written, but I don't know if I'm going to do anything with them, because I wasn't writing them for kind of like an end goal. I was just writing them purely for the love of writing them, and that's what I thought was so, in a way, you know, I was lucky in lockdown to have that I was doing things just for the sake of doing it and just being present, rather than thinking of, oh, this has to be something and this has to be perfect, and this
pressure.
has to.
There was no pressure.
Yeah, I was just doing it for the love of it. So I started doing that.
And that's liberating, isn't it? When it's not to be published, it's not to prove anything, it's not to please anyone, but it's just purely the expression of what's inside you on a page that is coming out for yourself is another kind of liberation.
Yeah, and also sometimes if I write, what I do in the morning sometimes, Julia, is I write, do you know the morning pages?
Yes, of course I do, yeah.
So I write, so I do that. And it's for me, it's like just being sick on a page, and I'm able to process a lot of my feelings and thoughts and answer my own internal questions that I have that sometimes I don't know the answer to. So I don't do it every day, but I try and do it a lot. And I love doing it. Did you write?
I mean, lots of clients I know do morning pages, and it sets their intentions for the day. It takes the debris of, their fear of, some people wake up, feeling terrible. And often it can wipe some of that away, the sort of fear or anxiety or loss or it is they're feeling, and they can set an intention for the day, and it completely shifts their mood and their being to have a better day. I mean, people use morning pages for lots of different ways, but I mean, the basic thing behind it is once you name what is going on, something shifts and changes. So it doesn't matter how you use it or what you use it for. By finding a way of putting it down, it no longer is stuck in your system. It has a kind of life of its own that then releases you to some extent.
Yeah, and sometimes when I write a page and I don't really ever read back what I've written because it's complete. I mean, a lot of it doesn't make sense, but it does really help. But I wanted to ask you, did you write a lot in lockdown?
So I wrote a book.
But did you? I mean, sorry, I knew that, but did you write just?
I journal. I journal every night before I go to bed. So I mean, in bed. So I've had a journal actually not that long, for about 2.5 years. I journaled a lot as a child, and I lost my diary once, and that put me off so long. It was a 4-year diary, and I was so upset. I left it on an aeroplane. I still feel sad about it now, and I was about 14 then. So I write for about 5 or 10 minutes every night. It's not very
every
interesting.
night?
Yeah, it's not very interesting, but I write my day, I write my feeling, I write, what's been going on.
Yeah, I don't.
It's really nice, and it's nice. I don't read it all, but I look back sometimes this day last year. So this day last year, we were just heading into another lockdown, and we could only have 4 people in the house, in a home, and it was getting gloomy, and so it was quite interesting seeing that. Can we talk about your podcast?
Yes, I'd love to talk about my podcast.
So Mary Proppins, and then your wedding, because that happened in COVID.
Yeah.
Mary Proppins said, where did you get the idea for your podcast theme? And your podcast is called Fear Itself?
Fear Itself, yes. So that came from, I was journaling actually, and I was asking people, different people about their fears, what they're afraid of, how they define fear, how they overcome it, how they face it, in a journal. And the conversations were so wonderful. I thought, oh, it's such a shame that I'm not recording them and sharing them. So then I thought, oh, well, I'll try and make a podcast. I had no idea how to make a podcast, but I love podcasts. So I started doing it, and it kind of grew from there. And I suppose fear in my own life, if I look at that, it can either really just hold me back in so many ways.
Get in the way of everything.
Oh yeah, through fear of like not being good enough or failing or doing something wrong or being judged, all those fears stop you from doing something. And I thought, I don't want to get to 80 or 90, hopefully.
Yeah, 100. Let's go
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
And look back and think, oh, I didn't try that, or I didn't do that because I was afraid
Frightened.
of it not being good or whatever. So I really always now have that mentality of just do it, just try and fail, you know, that's okay. So I was interested in how other people deal with their fear, and it's really about courage. So I think maybe I got the title wrong, Julia. I don't think it should be called fear itself, because people are really talking about the bravest moment of life. So but I'm loving it, and I love meeting new people, different people, hearing their stories, learning. It's wonderful.
Amazing. And Marta Anna is saying, I listened to your podcast and I loved it.
Oh,
Greetings from Poland.
okay.
So that Susan Jeffers book is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. But
Yes.
what I got from your podcast is that how we feel the fear and how we do it anyway is very subjective and very different for everybody. But in some way, again, naming it and hearing it from different people who you'd never expect to hear it from, both takes some of the fear out of fear and normalizes it and makes one feel less ashamed, because there's an awful accompanying bedfellow to fear, which is shame, that somehow this awful sort of toxic shame that you're letting the fear run you, or, you know, letting it stall you in some way.
Yeah, I really feel that. And also that somehow saying you're afraid of something makes you weak, which is just such a flawed, you know, that's so flawed. And also when I was creating it, I went into a newsagent and I saw it was on the front of a magazine, and it had a model of a cockatoo, and it said in big letters, fearless. And I just thought, oh, for me, that just really jarred with me, because I just thought,
That is never me.
yeah, and if I was a teenager looking at that, I think, oh, do I need to be fearless to be, you know, beautiful and bold and strong? And I don't believe that. And I also think when I was at school, I don't know if schools have this now, but when I was at school, we never learned about big, overwhelming feelings like fear or jealousy or anger. No one ever talked about it. So I remember having very strong feelings. You know, I'm someone that does feel a lot, and
That's why
and
you're good at what you do.
and thinking, why? What am I alone? Why do I feel angry? Why do I feel this? And I just think if we just at school, maybe just once a week for an hour, just had a class on how to manage those feelings. You know,
Susie, the therapist Susie Orbach, about 12 or even 15 years ago, tried instituting emotional intelligence in schools, how to manage your feelings, how to be aware of yourself, how to communicate well. And it was completely kind of laughed off the agenda. And of course, you know, if you look at the outcome from research about emotional intelligence and knowing yourself and knowing, you know, how to communicate and how to manage your feelings so that they don't run you, so that you don't explode in 1 minute or retreat at another, is a big predictor of your outcome, because otherwise your feelings completely take over your life. Can I just, so it's incredibly important, your podcast. So I'm just going to say Mimes, 1982, having been diagnosed with sleep-related hypermotor epilepsy, which are fits you wake up with. That sounds so difficult. And every night they happen. So I had to face it happening every night, made me face fear, which was so much better. So, I mean, God, that's a hard way to learn to face fear. But I respect you for it. That's tough. So what are the things that you've learned from your podcast? Has it given you a kind of a robustness in the face of your own fear? Do you think you've got a bit more knowledge, understanding? Because we can't stop ourselves feeling fear. It's what we do with it and how we translate it and the story we tell ourselves about it. So, you know, the story we tell ourselves is the person we become. So if you take some of the sting out of fear, I guess you have a different relationship with it.
Yes, and also I've learned so much, and I realise as I get older that more and more really is that so many thoughts, fearful thoughts, aren't true, and we just believe our thoughts and think that my thoughts are me, and that's just not true.
I call that conflating feeling with fact, that you feel fearful and then that somehow you feel that you are full of, that's all you are, is a fearful person, but you can separate out the feeling from who you are.
And also I think that so many of our fears are in the future, you know, they're not, we're anticipating something that might not never happen, or if it does happen, it's never quite as bad as we think. And also a lot of the guests I've had on, it's really interesting because they name a fear or they talk about it. And if they look at their careers and what they're doing in their life, they're moving towards their fear, and they're doing, like, gosh, that's amazing that you do that job, because it's a total contradiction to what your fear is. So that's really interesting, and I don't have an answer. I don't know what the answer is to that, but I have found that.
I guess in some ways it's the paradox. The more you face what you find unacceptable in yourself, the more likely it is to change and become acceptable. So that the more you build walls around it and push against it, the stronger it becomes. And the more you allow it to, you kind of welcome it and allow it to come through, then it shifts and your relationship with it shifts. So everyone's saying how much they love your podcast.
Thanks.
So Marta Anderson, I'm dealing with the depression now. I'm sorry, Marta. And your podcast helped me a lot. So thank you. Isn't that lovely? Some people talk about depression as being, well, it can be anger going inside, but it can also be fear going inside. We've only got about 5 or 6 more minutes. So can we end on a very happy note?
Yes.
Marrying Harry. And I've known Harry since he was a tiny boy. His mum, I was a childhood friend of mine. Our parents were friends. So I've known him all his life. My daughter was bridesmaid at Claire's wedding.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, he's a dreamboat, as you know.
He is a dreamboat. He's actually one of the most handsome men in the universe, I have to say. He is mind-bogglingly handsome.
I just got work, and I said, you've got to go downstairs and work. I got emails to her, said, we can't sit here at the kitchen table because I'm about to chat to Julia. He said, okay, I'll go downstairs. So he's gone downstairs, sitting on the emails.
But how was your wedding?
It was.
Did you cancel it a million times and then just go for it? What happened?
No, we didn't. We just decided to go for it. It was a tiny little window where you could have 30 people. We planned it in a week, and it was, I mean, it's surreal, really, because when I was younger, when I was at prep school, me and my friend Poppy, who's still one of my really good friends, we had this wedding book where we, yeah, but inside we sort of imagined our wedding would be. I don't have it, annoyingly, but I can't remember what, but all, you know, what we wanted, and we collected all these things. And I think there's actually an episode in Friends where Monica does that.
Really?
I think so, or Rachel, one of them. Anyway, so we did that, and then the wedding that we had was, you know, totally stripped back. I'm sure in that book it would have been bright sunshine. I would have had a new dress, but I wore a dress that I wore in a music video once that I found in my wardrobe. It rained all day. We had 30 people, so we couldn't have any friends. It was just our family. And what was magical about it is there was no expectation. There was no
pressure,
no
performance.
Pressure. Yeah, and I think sometimes in these weddings we want everything to go, obviously, because
perfectly.
You want your dressed to fit, you know, you're thinking about the are people enjoying themselves, about the cake or whatever. And this, we just had there were no expectations, because we planned it in a week and we just did it, and it was really intimate and magical and special. And of course there was a sadness that we couldn't have our closest friends there, but in a way it was just very us as well. You know, I don't think we'd ever have a massive wedding anyway. And it was really special, but extraordinary though. I mean, it's just, you never would think that would be.
What COVID has done for you is released you from pressure, hasn't it? I mean, I know you want to act, and I hope you do, but it's released you from performance, and you've kind of discovered ways of being you and getting married in a way that feels so you and so Harry and so, you know, intimate and loving, and doing it in a week is such a you know, it's so simple, isn't it? It uncomplicates everything. It's just about the two of you loving each other, committing to each other with the people that love you most and have known you the longest through your lives. I mean, that's a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, and you're right, it just does that, just takes the pressure, it took the pressure off everything. And it was really just about our vows at the end of the day, which I think sometimes can get lost in a really big wedding because there's so much else going on. And it was really, so I feel very grateful for that time. And yes, and finding other things, as you say, in lockdown, like my writing and my podcast, it also takes a sort of like, oh, acting, which at the time I was a bit like that. I was like, that's all that matters.
Obsessed.
Yeah, I just want to be, you know, in a play all the time, and that's all that matters. And actually now it's not all that matters, you know. And there was
so learning, your perception has changed about what matters.
Exactly. And actually in my 20s, there were times when I'd get, oh God, auditions for just parts that were just, you know, the posh blonde girl, very one-dimensional. And I would just go for them because it was a job and because I wanted to act. And now I just don't want to do that, even though it's a job. You know, and a lot of people say, well, you know, you just take what you're given because it's such an oversubscribed industry. But I have just made a very, and it's, I think, just takes a confidence in myself, I guess, which is growing, to be like, actually, I'd rather not do that and not take the job to play the kind of
silly blonde pop girl.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I mean, some of those roles can be quite funny, fun, and if so, maybe that will come up. But most of the time, they're just like, I don't want to do that. So
interesting, isn't it? But also, I guess you're discovering that there are many ways of being creative and being yourself, that being an actor and being on the stage isn't the only one, that there isn't. And I think that is maturity and confidence in some ways, that it feels like you had this, which you have to have, you know, this kind of mono vision of what you want. But what COVID has done for lots of people is forced you to kind of rethink and reappraise about what matters. And you're discovering new things about yourself. And people are really loving your podcast. Somebody here has said, Cressida, continue your podcast and the conversations about fear and topics connected to fear. Hugs from Germany.
Thank you so much. It's really nice to hear that, because sometimes I think, oh my God, you know, should I continue? Even though I'm loving, you know, you think, you know, is this people listening? So thank you so much for saying that.
Because also you do it into space, don't you? You can't always tell how it's being received, because not everybody.
No, you don't. You don't. I think.
And so my last thing, I keep interrupting you. It's really terrible therapist behavior, but I'm trying to get everything in. I saw you got a puppy.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
We're here, and Harry's taken her downstairs into our room because he said, I'll take her downstairs because she might squeak, because she's only 7 months, so she squeaks a lot and she wants to be picked up all the time. But honestly, without sounding really corny, it has changed my life.
You're in love, right?
you
You're
got a
so
dog?
loved.
Have you got a dog?
Our dog started biting my grandchildren, so we had to give him to somebody else to live with. So
Oh
we don't
no.
have a dog right now.
Oh no.
We have had a dog all our lives, but not right now.
I love her. And people talk more. Someone else has a
In
dog
the
and they,
park, like Marina Fogle met Ben in the park, right?
did they? Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, through
People
dogs.
talk to each other who have dogs. Whereas, if, you know, when you don't, you just kind of walk with your head down. I have made so many friends in the park.
Have you?
I don't know their names, but I know the dog's name.
That's so fun.
So we kind of made friends through the
Hello,
dog.
Dougal. Hello, Fluffy. Hello. That's so nice.
Okay, I
Did
love
you
that.
did you feel a sense of community in COVID of your neighbours, and were you in London a lot of the time?
No, I was at Harry's mum's house for the whole time, which was lovely. Actually, a lot of people are like, God, how can you be with your in-laws for that long? And I feel very, very blessed because I get on with them very well. Thankfully,
It's
otherwise
lovely, yeah.
I don't know what I would have done. But I get on with them really well, very close. So that was lovely to be with them. And actually, it's just a real kind of bonding time as well, because you would never spend that much time
Never.
in-laws or parents, really. That's like months.
Months. No, you would never. It's an opportunity that you'll never ever have again. We had our children living with us for a really long time. So listen, I'm gonna sign off. But people are saying great chat, much to love from the USA. And this is so lovely to listen to after a difficult couple of days. I'm sorry, Lila. So relatable and interesting. Thank you so much. And Jono said, what names do dogs give their owners? That is a good point. So Chris, lovely seeing you. I hope I see you in person.
I know, Julia. It's really lovely to see you, and I just love everything that you're doing. These
Oh,
love, and you're just so wise, so wise.
not so sure. But anyway,
You are.
good luck. Keep going with the poddy.
Yes, well, you must come on.
I'd love to come on the poddy.
I might change the title. I think Fear Itself is. I think some people have said I thought it was about something else, but actually, it's really about courage. But they're kind of two of the. I mean, they're two of the same thing, aren't they?
You could give a strapline. Gabriella, I think she's your sister. Hello, Chris. Love you. You could do a strapline because the thing is, it's got a brand now, so you don't really want to change it.
I know, it's tricky. It's just a bit. I had someone the other day said, "Oh, I was really kind. They said, I really enjoyed your podcast, but to be honest, I wasn't going to go on it because I thought it was about something really spooky, because it's called Fear Itself." I was like, no, it's about overcoming fear.
So maybe you just add overcoming fear itself.
Yeah, maybe.
Why did people suggest it in the once I post this? People suggest new titles for your podcast.
Please do, everyone.
Okay. All right.
Names. Bye. I've never done a live chat. This has been wonderful.
You've done so good. It's like you're in the room.
I love it. It's been really lovely. Thanks, Julia, for having me.
Lovely to see you. Lots of love. Take care.
Take care. Bye.